Hey everybody, welcome to the Recoup. I'm Cooper Daniels, and I'm a guy that knows a little about a lot. And today I am here with the one and only Lee Parsons. He is the founder, CEO of Opulous, which is a music NFT platform and peer-to-peer DeFi loans for musicians, et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk all about it. How you doing, Lee?
I'm all right, mate. Good to chat again. Always enjoy it. So I'm ready.
Yeah.
Ready for trouble. I told you I'm
ready
on the old.
Yeah, you locked and loaded here.
The Negroni machine is ready, mate. So
Negroni machine. I got an ice cold.
A
Cheers.
swimming pool of beer.
I got a swimming pool of beer. No, but for anybody that's out there that knows, this is Klaus Sailor. So if you know what Klaus Sailor is, then you know. But it doesn't matter. Cheers.
All right, salute, bro.
Yeah, salute. So, all right. I feel like most of my audience is pretty well versed in knowing you, but I don't like to assume that. So maybe we should go back. Like, I feel like first, before we go back and you start talking, you know, you have like, you're one of the more compelling people in the Algorand ecosystem.
It's a nice word for it.
Well, no, it's true. Like, you know, I kind of think of you like some of these sports guys that I love. Like, if they're on your team, like you love them, and then if he's not on your team, maybe you love to hate him a little bit. Does that track a little bit?
Yeah, that sounds pretty familiar. Yeah.
Cool. Well, and you know, obviously the Opulous people and supporters are on your team. But by the way, on Algorand, we're all on the same team. So I think we should try to kind of, you know what I mean? So all the infighting.
And we've got huge amount of great Algorand supporters, man, as well. And they've been really incremental to our success. So, you know, I'm happy to have them all there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then, all right, well, we'll get into all of that. So why don't you just kind of give me a quick rundown of like how you got to the music industry possibly, or even how you were raised to kind of, you know, influence who you are today, how you ended up creating Ditto, and then what made you land on Opulous.
Yeah, for sure. So me and my brother come from a place called Birmingham in England, which is a really, I don't know if you've seen Peaky Blinders ever. It's that town's why I sound funny. We came from a very, very modest background from like what was our version of the housing projects in America. So we never really had much money. We always wanted to kind of do something good. And when you're kind of from that background, I think the only two choices you seem to see are football or music. So we tried music. We both started a band when we were like probably 16, 17. We spent a long time in the band. We eventually got a record deal. And at that point it was, you know, this is amazing. You know, we thought we were going to go really far. And then we were on that record label and all that stuff happened for probably 2 years. We didn't release anything. And then the day we were finally supposed to get a single come out, we got just I can't remember what it was, an email saying we'd been dropped by the label and it wasn't coming out. And I never got a phone call again off anybody. So that was like that harsh reality. Me and my brother were both window cleaning the whole time we had a record deal, which is pretty disparaging because when you're telling your friends you're on a record label and you're cleaning their windows, the truth is very hard to come up with. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah, sure you do. Yeah, sure. You got a record label with who? Yeah.
Just give me the £3. Shut up. So we did that. And then we were like, man, we'll self-release our own music because we built up a decent fan base. We've been doing shows and we've been trying to, you know, build our products. And we thought, man, I can't just have a song that I've spent so long and it not go out. Yeah. So we thought, well, we'll just put the music out. So I went down to my local record store, which was HMV in Birmingham, and it was Christmas and it was absolutely packed at Christmas because they had our version of What the X Factor Is song come out and everyone was scrambling in. And I remember shouting at this woman like to try and get her attention. I was like, can I put my CD in your shop? And she pretty much just burst out laughing at me and just kind of pointed around and goes, look, you know, you're not going to get in here. All these people are buying things, you know, what label are you from? So I was like, well, I don't really have a record label. And it became clear then. And the funny thing about that story is I tried to buy HMV about 3 years ago. Not many people know that. And I was going to turn it into coffee shops. That was my plan because I'm still annoyed about that situation.
Yeah. Because that's amazing. You were like, they're struggling because record stores are struggling. Like, I'll buy them.
They went into insolvency and they were up for bid from a few people. And me and my brother were like, man, I'd just love to turn them all into coffee shops and just find that person. But anyway, I did it in the end because you shouldn't start businesses out of revenge.
Who talked you out of that?
But anyway,
was it you that talked you out of it, or was it somebody else who talked you out of it?
I can't remember who bought it in the end, but it was all kind of sewn up pretty fast. So anyway, so me and brother were still window cleaning. We still, I mean, like I said, you've got to understand this is not an easy situation to be in, man. I mean, even getting a record deal was one of the hardest things I ever did. You know, getting to that point, or even just getting out of the situation that we were in at home and the area that we were in was really difficult. And then we went back home and we were like, well, let's put our music out. HMV didn't have it. And we were like, okay, well, I can't see CDs being around anyway in a few months' time because most of my friends are like buying stuff on Apple. Spotify had pretty much just come out, right? And no one was using it. And there was a store called Whip It, who were like, they were the only, basically me and Matt released our own single. It got to like number 72 in the charts or something because we just bought them all ourselves. And I had this scheme with these SIM cards. It's really, I don't know if you want to go into it now. You can always edit this, but no. So what we did, right? A sale from a mobile phone counted as one chart point. So me and Matt were looking on eBay. We found out that you could spend, I think it was £3 on a £5 SIM card, right? Off that £5 SIM card, a song cost £1.50. So we could buy 3 singles off a £5 SIM card for £3. And off that £3, we got £1 back for every single that we sold. So we actually broke exactly even on every song that we bought. So in 2000 or whatever it was, 7, it was literally me, my brother, and my mum sitting in our house, our little council house in Birmingham, with these big boxes of SIM cards. And I just remember everyone at the time was like, Lee, you're always calling me on like 10 different mobile numbers. And I was like, yeah, because I was just, using them as well. It was an absolute mess. And then
But you were getting your numbers up.
I was getting my numbers up. I mean, we got to number 72 and no one really cared. So that was the end of that. And but at that point, we kind of worked out that there was a massive gap here because I can't release a song. I've got a bunch of fans who want to buy my song and the shop is telling me I can't put it in a shop for that person to buy a song. That is absolute madness, right? But this is what the music industry was. If you can't get into a shop, you can't get on radio. And if you can't get on radio, you can't get in the charts. So 0.1% of all the artists was getting signed. They were all getting ripped off and losing their money anyway. And there's millions and millions of artists all over the world that can't put a song out. And they're just used to, at the time, making a demo, sending it to a label, hoping they get signed. So we're thinking, well, why don't we just start a business where we charge people some money and then we'll go and do all that work for them. We'll get them in a shop or on an online store. And that was a whole business. And we were like, well, maybe we can earn £50 every week and we can keep going to the studio. That was my plan. And I had a whole plan written out and I was going to try and make £5,000 over the next 6 months from doing whatever it was, 100,000 releases. And then we started doing it. We set a business up. We called Ditto Music. And I've told the story a lot of times, but the reason we were called Ditto was because my brother had a computer company. And I say computer company, it was just basically him on his phone. And he used to give out leaflets to people to come and fix their computer. And I was working with him doing that. We had a phone. His computer company was called Ditto. And it was something horrific, like international technology. It was just awful. And it was just basically him in our little flat with me on a phone. So when we started, I was doing bouncy castles because I saved all my money up from doing the window cleaning, bought a bouncy castle. That was called Ditto Bouncy Castles. Because
wait, hold on. Bouncy castles meaning like you would go to kids' parties and set it up for them?
Yeah, that was, exactly. So we got it, mate, I've got horror stories about that. I mean, me and my brother would it was awful, man. But it was still, I look back on these days with such fondness now because at the time it was all or nothing all the time, right? So we were only doing this to get to our end goal was, which is the most important thing. Once I had a goal, I didn't care what I was doing in between. I didn't care if I had to go and window clean because I knew what the end goal was. And that's the most important thing. That's the first step, right? And when you're running anything, you have to make sure what that goal is. And I say this all the time. One of the biggest things you can set a goal, but everything you do, every decision you make has to move you towards that goal. Because if it's moving you away from that goal, that's just as bad as not trying at all. So say you're living in LA and you wanted to start a business as a country music singer and you move to Nashville, that takes you here. You go to Nashville and you're working 20 hours a day in an office. That just takes you back to the start anyway. But if you make sure every decision you make is focused on the end goal, I promise you, anyone listening to this, you're going to make it over a 10-year period. So that's why I was doing bouncy castles, because it actually gave me more time in the week. I was just working Saturdays and Sundays doing that. I'd get up in the morning sometimes to do window cleaning from like 7 till 10. But the bouncy castles were called Ditto bouncy castles because we had one phone line. My brother was Ditto computing. When someone phoned up, we'd have to say hello Ditto, and then I'd have to work out if they wanted a bouncy castle or a computer. And it was literally like this for ages. We had a bunch of different. We had a leaflet with computers on the back and bouncy castles on the other side with 2 different phone numbers leading to the same thing. And it was only us working there, and it was like, okay, I'll send someone out for you, madam, soon, and then it would be me going out and pretending I had a different name. So when we started Ditto. God. And this is literally right at the bottom. I said, man, we lived in a really small council flat. We barely had enough money for electricity. And I know everyone talks about their startup journeys, but I'm telling you, it's a bad town. The flat upstairs was basically 20 people doing heroin most of the day. And then most of the night was just loud, horrible music. There was nights when, anyway, some stuff happened. it was bad times, man.
You're like there, yeah, like murders and stuff. Did you, how old were you at this time?
I think I was like 23, 24, something like that. So I'd been in a band since I'd left school, right? And we spent a long time doing that. I was
going to ask that all finished. Just before you continue, I want you to continue. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that I think people want to know. I want to know what was the name of the band and what was your role in the band.
You won't find this, man, and I'll never say. Because I get enough abuse online. I don't need any more. Thank you very much.
So you've successfully scrubbed this from the internet.
Well, yeah, it was kind of just because we didn't release anything, and it was just kind of when YouTube was getting massive. I didn't make any videos, and I've somehow got away with it. And there's several other things I've got away with too that are probably online somewhere. So not bad, nothing bad. I know. Okay.
Nothing to get you canceled. But were you the singer? I need to know. Were you the singer?
Yeah, I was singing and giving the gift of rap to the audience.
Oh, okay. So there you go.
Yeah, just sharing my gift. So anyway, so when we started Ditto, and my plan was like, I'm going to charge people to release music. We got a contract with Spotify really quickly because I knew the people that were setting Spotify up because there was this other company called Whip It who were the only person who would take our single. And the person from that was literally one of the investors in Spotify. And Spotify had about 1,000 users. It was crazy. I remember having the email from Spotify saying, hi, this is the guys from Whip It. We set this new thing up. Would you mind passing the email out to your friends? And I got my mum set an account. So my mum was like one of the first 1,000 people on Spotify, which she'll tell you over and over again if you ever meet her. So
she loves it.
So we started that. And then you think, okay, well, we've cracked it, right? We've got a new system for delivering music digitally, online. Everyone else is doing CDs. This is going to be massive. And it is massive now, but it's not what happened because at the time I was sitting there contacting bands on MySpace. Everyone thought, well, this is a scam. Why would I want music on Spotify? They're not paying. Why would I want music on iTunes? CDs are the future. So we went back to one of the bands that we were working with before that we knew. And we said, look, no one's taking this seriously. What we want to do is try and get a band in the top 40. Now, a lot of independent bands get in the top 40 at the moment, but back then you hadn't seen I don't think you'd ever seen an unsigned artist in the top 40. So we got this band called Cooper, who are now in the Guinness Book of World Records as being the first unsigned band in the top 40, the first ever digital single in the top 40. We used our SIM card trick.
That's amazing.
We used everything we could, man.
Yeah.
We used everything we could. And so 12 months after we released our own single, I think we had Cooper had been out, they got all their fan base to buy as much as they could, but we were obviously, cheating a lot and getting all these singles into the charts. It was a Monday morning on the second week of January. Now, we released it on the second week of January because it was always the quietest week. Most of the charts company who worked there were on holiday still. No one was putting any singles out. So if you ever had a chance of getting the top 40, this was your week. So from 3 weeks, right, we put it on pre-sale, which means people can buy the song before it's out, but it'll still register towards the first week, which you could do on the SIM cards, which was brilliant because it gave us 3 months to go and do all this stuff. I hope they can't cancel your Guinness Book of World Record years later. Whatever. But
it's like baseball players and steroids, like they're going to take it away from you. Yeah.
But so we did all this, and on the Monday morning of that week, it was 8 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. I can't. It was before 9 o'clock, and no one ever phoned you in the morning for good news, right? It's always something bad or a bouncy castle, what I was expecting. And I remember coming down to bed, and then I hear a click. I come, hello, is this Ditto music? And I'm like, all right, well, it's not a bouncy castle at least. So and then she's like, are you the people that are responsible for this Cooper release, like the song? And I'm like, man, we're in so much trouble here because like, I'm thinking, I wonder if this is actually illegal because it's fraud. And then I was like, I'm like, well, I mean, what's up? And she goes, oh, you guys are at number 12 in the charts.
Oh shit.
Number 12. And I'm just like, yes.
Wow.
So after all that, man, of starting, we only had that one customer. We had him and another guy, Scott Kerr, who I was tweeting about the other day. He was like a guy in Scotland who was like in his 50s and 60s, who just got the whole thing straight away and was the first person to release digital music. And still, like I said, he's still one of my close friends, man. We brought him to an award show last year and he caused absolute havoc. It was brilliant.
Awesome.
So after all that, it was like, man. And then that got in the top 40. It was the first ever digital top 40 single. And then suddenly all the media and all the world seemed to be all over us. Like the BBC came around to our house and we're doing like it was so funny. I've told this story before that the guy was like, I can't remember what it was. What was it? But anyway, they obviously didn't know anything about digital music. They were all putting these stories out. They all thought the band had got in the top 40 through, digital music. And we were like suddenly the only company doing it. So over the next like 3 years, we had 11 top 40 singles the first year with unsigned artists. Some of them weren't even cheats. Some of them were legit.
Yeah, you got tired. You couldn't do the SIM card thing anymore.
My fingers were worn out after those few months. And so from that point, digital music became a thing, and we were the first people that started putting people onto digital stores instead of going to record label. So that's how I kind of came into music. And at that point, 2011, we worked with people like Ed Sheeran. Sam Smith put his first album out with us, and we were working with his team for a long time. And all these so many people, man, that are massive stars now that we kind of, we worked with early days, and they really weren't that big. And it was, I never thought Ed Sheeran would get as big as he was. But what I will say about him is he always had an amazing energy for everyone, and he worked his socks off, and he did 300 shows a year when we met him when he was unsigned, and he still does that, I think. And that's why, work ethic is so important, and keeping a good, energy for other people is important because he has that. And then Ditto now has, 750,000 users from where we did. It's a subscription service that puts music on iTunes and Apple. We have a management company. We manage some of the biggest artists in Europe. There's a guy called Nathan Dorr, who's in the top 10 in England at the moment, who manage publishing. Ditto's a huge entity, right? And then obviously about 5 years ago, I started getting into crypto because I was traveling a lot with Ditto and I was setting all different offices up. And then I just started having really good conversations all over the world with different people who were doing different things. And I met a guy who was a producer, and he was telling me about Bitcoin, and we just sat there and drank about 3 cases of beer this one day. And by the end of it, I was like, I'm going home. I literally went home the next day, Bitcoin, half drunk, half hungover, and just like, I'm sure I've told this story before. I went to the bank and tried to take all my money out, and they wouldn't give it me. But then eventually I took most of my net worth out and just put it all into crypto in what would have been about 2016, 2017. And then I started studying it and working in it, man. And because as soon as you kind of realize that this isn't going to go away, and this is only going to excel technology, because all good technology comes from community, right? Community always moves faster than technology. Community, eBay's a community of people selling stuff in their garage. Facebook is a community of people. You can't go and give technology to people. People have to give something to technology, right? And I think what Bitcoin and all these things you could see was, man, this is a massive community of people. And I know they haven't sorted the answer out to what it is, but this community is just going to grow and grow, and they're going to dictate where we're all going eventually. And I want to be involved in that. So then, I sat around trying to solve the different problems in the music industry. I knew Algorand through Miles. I mean, man, I was raising money in January 2018 when the whole market crashed. And I had this massive company, Ditto, and I was still do meetings with people, and they'd literally be like, oh, hello, Lee, is this about Ditto? And I'd be like, no, it's about Opulous. And they'd just hang up. I'm not joking. People would hang up. I went to China for what was supposed to be an investment meeting. A guy just came out and shouted at me for 20 minutes from another. I'll tell you who the blockchain was afterwards. And I had that for 2 years, man. And that was probably the most demoralizing years I'd had since about 2008, because no one was invested in the market. No one wanted to listen to anything I was saying because they thought they could invest in Ditto, because I'm the only person that owns Ditto, and people are always trying to invest in it. No one wanted to listen. And then I met Miles, was one of the last people that I met through another contact of mine. And I must have had 300 meetings in a couple of months. Miles was the last guy I met, And he was one of the first investors in Algorand, and he was part of Cosmos Capital that helped Algorand put the round together when they were doing it. So they were very familiar with the blockchain space. They really liked the idea, and they actually listened to what I was saying about stuff. They didn't know much about music, but they got involved really quickly. Miles and me, you know, we hit it off. He's brilliant at what he does, which is on the VC side. And he became like my co-founder, and then we sat around, and then the market all changed, and then suddenly it became really easy to raise money, and everyone, you know, understood everything. But because I've been working for so long beforehand, I was pretty prepared, and that's why I think Opulous had such a good launch, right? And and there I am. I don't know how that story ranks on the top 10.
No, it's good. I mean, are you kidding me? If you would maybe spit a couple bars in the middle of it,
I know.
Fun, but
no,
like that's not happening.
Not cleaning your windows either.
No windows. Yeah, no, it's good. You've moved on. So you're there. Bitcoin gets on your radar. You try to withdraw all your money. The bank gets in the way, like they like to do, and then you eventually invest in Bitcoin. And then you have this idea, right? So now you're like, okay, this is the future, and you have this idea of, all right, like people should be able. What if fans could invest in the music that they love and earn some of the royalties, right? That's the original. Is that the original idea of Opulous, or is it the peer-to-peer?
No, that was originally the idea. I mean, originally in 2017, you're thinking like, well, tokens would be the big thing, but I never really could understand that, because it's like, okay, I'm buying an Ed Sheeran token, but what does that get me? Because everyone in 2017 was like, you know, musicians have their own tokens and you'll buy one early on. But I'm like, yeah, but how does the asset appreciate in value? You've just got a token. I'm a huge Warren Buffett fan, man. I read pretty much everything he ever does. And, you know, he only invests in businesses that have an asset that's why Warren doesn't like Bitcoin. And I understand it, because he doesn't, you know, you probably could make a lot of money in Bitcoin, but he's the richest investor ever. And he likes things that give him a long-term great investment. And he invests in businesses, not, you know, he doesn't speculate. And that's why he's not into Bitcoin. So you can forgive him for that one. But that's what I couldn't understand in the crypto space. It was like, there's a lot of people saying they'll do stuff. No one's doing it. There's no assets in tokens. So we always had the vision of being able to buy a fracture of something and then trade it, because the biggest problem in the music industry is finances and getting finances. But then also that things like copyrights and music copyrights are so hard to buy, and the normal person can't buy them. And all of the banks at the moment are buying music copyrights because the yield on them is like 10% plus. And then you own that copyright, so you can sell it in 10 years. It usually goes up in value, and you're getting 10% interest every year. It's a lot better than the housing market. And it's like, well, man, this is one of the biggest, you know, store of values that's happening in the market, but no one's allowed access to it. And then on the other hand, artists that I know are going and signing away their copyrights for nothing, and then the labels are just sitting on and doing nothing. So that was a problem we always faced. And I think people when NFTs came out, it was good because it shifted attention away from tokens and fan tokens and all this stuff, which is still very speculative. And it gave us a better narrative for people to understand what we were doing, which is building an asset to someone's music that is easily fractionable and tradable and is available to any person, not just, you know, someone who's buying a lump sum.
Yeah. And I've heard you say it before, you know, something like a music, royalties. That's like you said, a commodity that even in a bear market is going to provide yield. People are going to continue to listen to music. I mean, that's just what happens, right? So it's kind of bulletproof.
So many people have it wrong. You'll see these blogs, right, come out and they're like, I had 3 million streams on Spotify and I earned 3 pence. Like, that isn't true. What happens is the record label earns about $5,000 for every million streams, which is that's just on Spotify. So if you have an artist, you know, like Drake, who's earning, you know, just more. I mean, you don't have to be Drake level. I run Ditto, right? All these plats you see are from people who don't have record deals and have probably made $1 million just from music, just from having music. And there's thousands and thousands of those because they now don't have to sign a deal. They own their copyrights. And the money in the music industry is huge. Get where we were going with the question, but it's a good point to make.
Yeah, and then one of the original complaints of Apple Music and Spotify and all that is that the artists they've lost a huge revenue stream because a stream is paid, you get paid so little.
It's not true.
It's not true. Yeah.
Problem. You see, there's a group in England, I'll call them out again, called Broken Record. And what it is a bunch of people that haven't made any money in music for 30 years for anything that are saying, well, we should get £1 a stream for our music. And look, no one's listening to your music, and that may be your fault. It's not your fault. The music people are listening to right now is rap is massive, dance is massive, and that's just the way those genres are going. It comes in and out every 10 years. But
Yeah.
I know kids who do rap music in England who are millionaires just from Spotify, from a couple of songs. If you're someone from the 90s who's doing music that people aren't listening to as much, of course your streams are going to be lower, but that doesn't mean the whole pot doesn't work. And Spotify should pay more money out, but you've also got to balance it economically and work out how they're then going to make profit. Because just because their share price goes up, that doesn't mean the company has more money. They can't just go and sell shares. And those are the economics that people also don't talk about. The arguments are always wrong on those things, always, because what they never do is go and speak to the kids that I work with who've bought their mum's houses and are buying stuff for themselves and are, still teenagers, a lot of them, and they've made a lot of money from streaming. And if they had a record deal, they wouldn't have made anything, because all the people you see from the 90s or the early thousands that had record deals don't have anything now because they didn't own anything and they don't get paid residually. And all these kids will get paid forever off their music. So it's a great time, man.
Have you noticed the industry at large moving towards the direction that you've been pulling it towards? Since what, 2006? When did Ditto start again?
Yeah, about 2007, something like that. Yeah, do you know what? It's really weird, right? And I was saying this about Opulous. I had one customer at Ditto for a year, and I created what was a revolutionary product. And I'm not just saying that because I created something accidentally that now is the staple of what music does. It's 50% of the market now is independent. So 50% of the market pays someone like me to put their music on Spotify or Apple without a record label. 50%, billions of dollars of revenue. So what we did change the whole system for everybody. But it took however many years, 15 years for that to happen. Because no one's interested. Even Warner Brothers, they've all tried to buy me, right? But they didn't start even... Warner Brothers in 2017, someone from my company went to work for Warner Brothers, and he was saying that every day they would just go into this little room, they'd bring my website up on the screen, and they just copied the whole website, all the Ditto Music website, and they launched their own version of what we did. No one signed up because they didn't really have any idea of what they were actually offering to people. But that took them 10 years to even get to that stage, and then they just tried to buy us like everyone else does. But the music industry is very slow to adopt things, because what you have is the people that are making a lot of money right now in streaming, in good jobs, who really don't care about 10 years time. Why would you, if you're making $1 million a year and I mean, labels are making between 1 to 2 million an hour from streaming, an hour. So that you can't, and you're just printing money. There's no cost to that. Streaming, you're not even making CDs. So they really don't care about the future. But what I'm saying is what I'm building now is a block for everything else that's going to happen over the next 10 years, which is why, again, when you're investing, this is what you have to look for. Are you speculating on a stock? Are you looking at a price every day? Because that's not how you're supposed to invest. You're supposed to buy into a business. You're buying part of the business that you believe is going to increase in value. And I think that's what, Opulous will do, the same as Ditto did.
Absolutely. And so, you get started in Algorand. You're one of the original projects. You're certainly one of the most exciting original projects. And so that happens. That's probably early last year, late. Yeah. And
I think it's nearly 2 years ago now, I reckon. I think it was around September we started talking to them. I don't remember them having any other projects when we signed up when we first got funding. It took 3 months. There wasn't really much going on. Mm-hmm. And I remember everyone at the time, why are you guys building an Algorand? Every funding meeting I have, every VC meeting, and every KOL meeting I had from, a YouTuber or someone else, why are you guys an Algorand? Why don't you build an Ethereum? But I don't get that anymore, which is good. No, it's kind of like and the same thing, right? Algorand had a plan, had a 2-year, 10-year plan, and they are now getting to where they knew they were going to get to. So all the noise in between really doesn't matter.
Well, and I think, by the way, personally, I think it's underappreciated. Guys like you that were there in the beginning, getting all this heat. Why don't you just do it on Ethereum, bro? What are you doing? Yeah, and it's you stood there and you're like, I'm going to do it. Okay, fine. I think Opal's on Binance, right? Is it? It's a couple different places.
We have a. I mean, this is the thing, right? So when we launched an ERC20 token, and I got flack from Algorand for it as well, and I got flack from everybody. But it was like, look, I guarantee, we've created 35,000 Algorand wallets, right? So I said, I guarantee to know where I want to get to, which is to be on the tier 1 exchanges and to get as much volume as I want for the Algorand token, I have to do this right now. And everyone was, shouting at us, laying into us, and we had to ignore that. We launched an ERC20 token, but you'll notice now to get your VC tokens back, it has to be an ASA token. So all the volume that's coming back is ASA volume. The ERC20 tokens mostly been faded out, but I needed to do that in the first process because Huobi, sites like that didn't have ASA. KuCoin didn't have ASA, and it would have been impossible to get on those exchanges. So I could have come out as an ASA only product and not done much. Or, I could have used that stepping stone to get to the point we are now, which is a much higher place. And now, as I said, if you claim any tokens now, you'll notice they're all ASA. All the funding that's going into exchanges is for ASA because, they were the first investor, man. And I'm a very loyal person, so I will always be very grateful to those guys and here to push Algorand however much I can, which, like you said, I was doing at the beginning when no one really wanted to listen at all. But not the community, other communities, but they're now seeing Algorand with all these products come out, and it's like, okay, I understand.
And I'm, I pay attention. I'm on the different places, Discord, and sometimes we'll go on Reddit, and I'm seeing people be like, "How did you get to Algorand?" Oh, I wanted to buy Opal,
Exactly.
I'm seeing.
And like I said, and you've got to think we did an IEO with DAOmaker. They didn't know anything about Algorand, and that was like, thousands of wallets from DAOmaker that now got ASA tokens and now have an Algorand wallet. So really, if we'd have just launched an ASA, we wouldn't have had the amount of ASA wallets that we have. So, I'm still glad it worked out.
Yeah. And we're obviously we're gonna dive into the roadmap and all the different things that are coming. Along with the MFTs and those early days, another aspect of it, which is still coming, I think, is the DeFi, the loan aspect. Yeah. Getting these musicians funded, competitive rates, peer-to-peer loans. So maybe describe a little bit about what you're doing with that.
So what the Opulous ecosystem does, there's a pool in the middle with all the money in. Artists can come in and take a loan out of it, and that's backed by their music copyright. If they don't pay the loan, then the music copyright gets transferred to Opulous just while it's paying the loan off, and then that will pay the loan off for them, and then it goes back to them. So they can't lose their copyrights, but it's 100% guaranteed way that we know the loan will get paid off. And on the other side, the interest that they pay is then given to people who are staking into the pool, whatever that is, around 10%. So again, like the OVault, and it all uses the same system as the OVault, it all uses the same token system. That's why what we're building, when we roll all these products out, it's going to be very quick because the system that we built for OVault is the same for the artist loans, and it's also the same for the MFT launches. So that's it really. You've got a whole pool in the middle, and people can borrow and lend each other money, and then it's just like a really, really safe version of what a stablecoin could be.
Cool. Now that's what the OVault is, but we were talking about the loans for the musician.
That's the loans, right? Same system.
Same idea. Got it.
Like I said, what happens is if someone wants to borrow 20K, they borrow the 20K, their copyright pays it off every month for them, and that money goes back into the pool. So it's pretty much the same system. The copyrights, that's why I said that's why it's been so important over the last 6 months to redesign what we're doing and create a really good blueprint for all these products coming out.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to do that. But before we do that, you had mentioned a couple moments ago about how you're a very loyal person. And I kind of joked in the beginning of this about how if you're on Lee's team, you love Lee. Maybe if you're not on Lee's team, you love to hate Lee, and we see a lot of stuff going on Twitter. And this is the time.
Now it's fine.
When he started, he sees where I'm going. He sees where I'm going, everybody.
Okay.
He's like, this is the time for the Negroni. Amazing. So, all right, my first question for you is, how do you think Yieldly's doing? That's just my first question. Do you have any thoughts on Yieldly?
Look, I know from what I've seen online, there's actually some decent people working at Yieldly, right? And I never really had a problem with Yieldly. If you remember back to when they started, I came on your show and you were saying which coins you like, and I was always like, Yieldly are great, this and this and this.
Yeah.
My problem was when we launched our token, Miles was having a baby, right? He found out it was some over those 2 weeks. He was all over the place. It was a bit of a mess, to be honest. Miles was, and he made some very bad decisions. And what we wanted somewhere we could stake the Opulous tokens. So because we didn't have any staking mechanisms, and if you remember, there wasn't any. Like now, you can stake Opulous on about 6 or 7 places.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Woof. Wait, man, doesn't know. Here we go. So. So now there was no way to stake it, right? So we spoke to Yieldly, and my thinking of what was supposed to happen was that they would be able to stake Opulous and get Opulous token, right? And that's what I needed. So that's what I wanted to happen. Then a couple of days before, Miles signed the contract, right, for me, and he hadn't read it properly, which I understand, right, is a problem. But also, like I said, I'm a very loyal person. One of my best friends is Ali, who runs XCAD, and me and him. But anyway, I'll tell you the rest of the story. So, and then I found out about this, and I was like, guys, we're launching a token. You're giving away 500,000 tokens to reward someone for staking a different token. This is absolutely crazy business. Why would we do this? We want people to buy Opulous, and we want people to be rewarded in Opulous. Why would we go and give Yieldly 500,000 tokens to give away to help them sell their token? This makes zero sense. I might as well go and do a deal with Nike and then say, can you give it away, or anybody else? This makes no sense at all to do it. And I said to Seb, who had got on one fine at that point.
By the way, I'm going to interrupt for a second. This is also happening when I believe the token is like at $5, right? Like, I mean,
right. And who's got?
So that's a serious amount of money.
Who owns the most amount of Yieldly, right?
Yeah,
Yieldly. So you can imagine how that equation went for them. They're just printing money. So then I messaged Seb, and these people have probably seen this online. I said, look, man, I'm really sorry, but I can't do this deal. It's going to wreck our token. And what I was expecting, as I said, if it was you or anyone else or my friend Ali or someone I work with, they'd be like, man, don't worry, I'll sort this out for you. I can understand. Or, because, okay, there was a contract. I didn't know anything about the contract, didn't sign it, but also it doesn't matter to me. Like a contract or no contract, most of the deals I do are just handshake deals. And it was at that point, it was like, because he was rude and he said no, and he didn't say no, he was just completely rude about it. In my head, I'm like, man, these guys are not long-term guys. I can tell what's happening here. They just want to push their token up, because I'm coming to you from a big project at Algorand that's working and pushing your projects as much as I can. I'm going to help you long-term. And if you help me here, you'll have my back for whatever you guys do. And XCAD, by the way, Ollie, who's my best friend, and we've had these discussions. I got him millions of dollars from Jump Capital Investment, because he needed it. And I could have helped Yieldly do that. I would have helped them do anything they wanted to do. But all they really wanted to do was shift that Yieldly token when it came up. And now I've had the Negroni. If you really want to research what that guy was doing, he had Power Ledger before, which, would raise 20 million, never did anything. And I think whatever business Seb's running now, he's had about 3 cents. But what I will say is, I know there are people at Yieldly that are still working to try and bring a product to life. So as a company, I've got nothing against them. I've got nothing against anyone really anyway. But the problem, my problem was, and the reason it all came out online, was we'd had this discussion. I was really kind of annoyed with how they handled it. And I kept getting these tweets from Yieldly going, hey, Lee, my bro, my friend, let's do another pool. I'm like, is this guy serious? Why is he saying I'm his brother when he's just told me to F off in a thing for asking him for a favor? And it kept happening over and over again. And then I printed his, what the discussion was. And then obviously all the Yield. What I don't understand about that, right, is everyone's against Yieldly now anyway, because what I said at the time was, publicly, I said, I don't think this company's in it for the long term, right? And I'd be careful, because I can tell by the decisions they're making in business now, they're not in it for the right terms. And what happened was they sold most of the token and a lot of the people left, and they weren't in it for long term. But everyone seems to hate Yieldly, but they still hate me, so I don't get it.
But they haven't recovered. It's like I was trying to help you. Well,
that's what I mean. It was nothing personal against me. It was just from a business standpoint. I was just a bit concerned that these are on our ecosystem, and I can see what's going to happen here. And you're talking about a year ago, while Yieldly was just going up and up, and everyone was saying it was brilliant. I was like, guys, there's something wrong here. And what happened? They just sold all their tokens, released another token, sold that one, went to someone else, doing another thing, selling tokens there. Yeah. It's a bit of a mess, but I don't know. But anyway.
So yeah. I mean, I had a smaller version of that where from somebody that I really respected, like kind of snuck in my DMs and be like, man, I think like all the devs just left Yieldly. So
they left ages ago, right? And that was the thing. They left months ago, but they didn't tell anyone. Months ago.
Yeah. Oh, really? And so when I had heard that, I posted like, I think there's trouble on Yieldly. And then, man, I got a lot of, really? You're the biggest fudster ever, man. And I'm like, look, I'm just trying to.
But all those people hate Yieldly now. So are they? I don't understand. It's like, they're so obsessed with not being wrong in the argument. Even though they hate Yieldly now, they still it's strange, but that was my thing at the time. I knew from people I knew that were working that their devs had already left to start this other finance project that he's got and raise funding because they were raising funding for something else and pretending that. But anyway, I do want to talk about that stuff, but I don't want to get too negative because obviously.
No, I know. I understand.
But that's what it was for me, man. Like I said, if you help me out with anything, I'll be the best friend you've ever had.
Since we're talking about Twitter and you've had a couple sips, you know, like I've heard you kind of be like, what the fuck? Like, where is Algorand? Like, why are you guys so damn negative on me? Right? Like, I'm trying to build something. I'm trying to bring people in. Like, what is your kind of overall feeling about that kind of combative? Or, I mean, you're somebody that will dish it. You know what I mean? Like maybe another CEO would just kind of ignore it. And you're like, no, like you're going to come at me. I'm going to come back. That seems to be how you do right?
Isn't that one of the strangest things in humanity that people will insult you, and then when you insult them back, they're absolutely outraged. It's crazy now, right? That people kind of feel that on social media they have the right to kind of just lay into someone, but they're hurt if they get that treatment back. It makes no sense. And I know that I can't even remember how it started. It probably started because of the yieldy stuff. I said something about NFTs once that just everyone went crazy about. And all I was saying was you should have utility in your NFTs.
Yeah.
And then eventually I just started blocking people who just didn't have anything good, and my life's been a lot better and I haven't really had any arguments. See, and I know a lot of people have been moaning about that, but of all the people I know, right, that are successful, I'm talking about, you know, in my clique of people that kind of come, you know, from similar circumstances, someone like Ollie, they've always got a good energy, right? And they'll come into a room and they have good energy and they make you feel good. And that's part of their kind of reason they're successful, because if you're running a company, you have to wake up and be positive every day, because even if it's not going well, if you're making a decision, you're always got to err on the side of positivity. This is going to work. Nobody wakes up in the morning and their head just goes, brilliant, another day, let's go. It's really hard to cultivate a positive mindset, right? Mm-hmm. So taking the time to make sure that my whole landscape of what I'm looking at is positive, because you've got the other side, you've got some people who just walk into a room and complain about the room and complain to someone about whatever else it is. And eventually you're like, man, I really don't need that. I want to keep myself positive, and I want to keep, you know, what I'm building as stress-free as possible. And it's really hard to cultivate even a social circle of people that are there and talking about positive things. And that's why, you know, me and Fernando get on so well. We talk for hours every day, not just about work stuff. He's also always got good stuff to say. But then, you know, like I said, on the other side, I can't imagine what it's like waking up in the morning, annoyed at something, getting on a fake Twitter profile, going and spreading negative energy, and then moaning because someone gave it you back. So right now, if anything's even close to like, it's best for me to just block it and move on. But I do miss the arguments, Cooper. Obviously, you know, I've worked in music for 15 years, right? And I had the same thing in music, because I'd say something and like, that's unprofessional. So it doesn't really bother me what you think. Being professional to me is running a company and making those decisions. But what I don't want to do is succeed being somebody else. I'd rather fail as myself than succeed being someone else than I'm not, because I can tell you, all these people on Twitter who play politician and are nice about everything, they're not nice behind closed doors. They're they're terrible people, and they can be whatever they want. But at least with me, you know what you're getting. If you think I'm a twat, I am. It's there. I don't think it won't get any worse than this, because, you know, like I said, I want to run my business by being myself, and if that means it upsets some people who don't really like me anyway, it doesn't really matter, because all that happens is people that gravitate towards your honesty, you'll make, you know, better friends with people who are on the same wavelength as you. So ultimately, you know, it works out for the best.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you then. So is that something that just that conviction of being yourself and not apologizing for it, is that something that you've always had, or is that something you kind of cultivated as you got older?
Yeah, so I was looking, there's a guy, I'm just can't remember what his name was. I was watching some founders interviews the other day, right? And there's this guy, Eric Schmidt, and he used to be one of the CEOs at Google. Yeah, and he actually said in this interview, they were saying, what's your recruitment process? And he goes, well, what we do, we don't take anyone on from those lesser universities. He actually said that on camera. And I'm a guy who didn't get to go to university. I had to drop out of school very early because we didn't have any money. And I think one of the best things is I've never been indoctrined into what someone is supposed to act and feel like, because I'm in a cutthroat environment. I went to a very tough school where, you know, every day you're kind of fighting anyway. And it's like, why would it? I don't really know any other way anyway, because that's just the way I am. I've never been to college and been, you know, I don't think it's a good thing going to college and getting taught how to act like a professional CEO. I wish more people were themselves, don't you? Because at least you know what you're getting. You know, the amount of rubbish we have to listen to our politicians and all the other stuff. But generally, me and my brother, we don't really care, because at the end of the day, I'll go to bed and I'm happy. And what people think in the short term always changes anyway, because, you know, I'm a genius in the bull run. People hate me in the bear market. Whatever happens today doesn't really matter, because I still have my exact same long-term plan. And also, you know, if someone's going to insult me, then I'm going to insult them back, because I'm from Birmingham, where the Peaky Blinders was filmed, and that's what happens.
Well, and then what if you don't? If you don't fight back, I mean, that's probably even worse where you come from, right? Then now you're just, you know, you're weak, and or they'll trample on you, right?
Yeah, I mean, everyone always says, "Oh, you shouldn't lower yourself," and I'm like, well, why not?
Well, I mean, there's the obvious. There is the obvious, there's the obvious thing where when you respond to it as somebody that has a lot of Twitter followers compared to when they have 72 or 12, and then you respond to them, you're giving them a much bigger microphone than they would have had otherwise.
So they better win the argument. And up to now, I haven't seen many people win. But like I said, man, I don't mind criticism. I don't mind anything. You'll never see me even be disrespectful to anyone who is half normal to me online. You know, I always like to chat to people. I like to know people. I answer questions from anyone. Most of my Twitter DMs, my Telegram is just me chatting to people. But if someone like thinks they can say something about your mum and stuff that's happened to me before, it's like, man, you wouldn't. If you went to my area and said stuff like that from thingy, you wouldn't come out of it. You can't say there should be a general respect code from people of what you can say and what you can't say. So, you know, that's a problem in general these days, right? Like people think that they can just say anything. Like there's, you can just say anything because you're safe behind a computer. And exactly. But
it's
you may
gross.
And man, there was a good interview with Kanye today. They were saying, do you want to? There was, because he put his new T-shirts out in what they were saying was rubbish bins, right? Did you see it? His Gap stuff. It was so good. And they're saying, Kanye, do you want to apologize to everyone? He's like, man, you guys should be apologizing to me, because he was saying as soon as someone is creative and tries to do something different here, you make them apologize for it, and you make your media. As soon as somebody do something media you don't want them to do, you make them apologize. And obviously, on a very much lower scale than Kanye, whenever someone has an argument with me online and I do something, they're like, you're unprofessional. You shouldn't be doing this. And it's like, man, if that's your go-to, that's not going to work with me, because my version of professional isn't what your version of professional is that you've been brought up to do. My version of professional is just being myself, standing my ground. And then who would you rather have go into a meeting with a record label or someone you have to negotiate with? Me, or, you know, someone who's a politician online? And it could go anyway, at least with me, you know, if it goes down, it's all right.
You know why? Well, I mean, and especially in these creative fields, like nobody's looking for you in the music world to be, oh, hello, sir, or like in all the creative stuff.
Make the funniest thing. And you've got to understand, I have meetings like, man, I had a meeting with one of the biggest banks in the world, probably, and I have these meetings all the time, right? It wasn't even through Opulous, it was through Ditto. And I'm on Zoom, and there's a guy I kind of half know, and he goes, how's your weekend? And I was like, man, I was doing this, and I was out the party and all this stuff. And you know, when you Zoom call and you scroll over and there's 10 people in the call and you didn't realize. And there's all these people watching, and still, I'm like, man, I don't really care. This is how I am, because that basically they wanted to invest in Ditto, right? So they know what they're getting into, and I don't have to be. If you put yourself in a position, I don't really need anything from anyone. It's like those guys are trying to charm me into giving me money. So
exactly,
if you try and change stuff, it doesn't work anyway. The best thing you do is be yourself, but just work so hard that people, you know, like that have to be nice to you.
Yeah, and you have, especially when you have a track record of success, you know, you're not there, you know,
and that was
begging.
hard. You imagine how that was for 10 years doing digital music with, you know, living in a flat, and I've just done bouncy castles and everyone giving me stick every day and writing articles about how we don't know what we're doing. And so, like I said, someone from a major label emailed me the day we started the business and was like, well, look, guys, it might make a nice Christmas present, but this won't ever be a business. I mean, he took time out of his day to email me that. And I was like, wow, an email from this must be going well. Someone from a record label's emailed me. But it doesn't really bother me because they're all, the record label is the record music industry is one of the dirtiest ones there is. It's probably, I think politics is worse. I know a few people who work in politics and the stories they have, but this is a tough industry, man. And and like I said,
I think well, and then also this is, for everybody listening, there's some good stuff in here, man. You said it earlier, when you're trying to do something, you've got to have the goal set and you've got to always be working towards that, right? And whatever and if it's washing windows or whatever, make it towards, but you have to clearly, that's something where I feel like gone off track in the past, is that I kind of knew where I wanted to go, but I wasn't like specific. I didn't know, like I wasn't like super zoomed in. It was a little nebulous in some ways.
But it's hard though, right? Sometimes you don't know what. I did not know I wanted to do digital distribution, right? But I didn't. Right. Before that, my focus was always on artists. But then, it can take a while to find out what you actually want to do. But if you don't know, you still got to have a goal of getting to find that out, which is, whatever that is. But a lot of people lose track, man, and they lose focus, and that could be anything from relationships to they get a little bit of money, get carried away. Like me and my brother, when we did Ditto, man, we paid each other like £300 a week for 10 years. All the money went back into the company. I was never rich. Even when we had money coming in, we put it all back in. I never pretended to be rich. I never had designer clothes. I never went on holidays. I just had everything coming in for a long-term goal, which is very, like, honestly, the more you read about Warren Buffett, he's such a cool guy. Like, he still lives in the same house he had, his whole life. He was like, he classes every $10 as like $1,000 because he knows he's going to 10x it over like 20 years. So he just hates spending money. He's given all his money away to charity before he's even dead, like pretty much 99% to charity. Definitely, if you're an investor, even if you're looking at markets, I would start by that book I posted today, The Intelligent Investor. Is so good because it kind of, once I read that, I think that's also what kind of made me a bit more chilled out about the online stuff, because once you read and you understand the mentality of a retail investor who is a speculator, they're not an investor, right? They're a speculator, because every day the price goes up and the price goes down, and that's their emotional connection with what the market is. An investor is someone who buys a business and sits back and follows it over a period of time, and they know it's going to go up, like you are with Algorand, right? It's like you're not kind of following it every day. It's great if it goes up, but we're here for a long period of time. But most retail investors, their friend told them to buy a stock, which is the worst reason for buying anything. They buy it when the market goes up, and then they shout you onto it because it goes down, which just shows you they're not, they don't really know what they're doing anyway. So once I read more about that, I chilled out a bit anyway.
Yeah, it's true. Like, some of my best decisions were basically exactly that. It's like, I remember watching, it was like a HBO documentary on Dr. Dre, and it had Jimmy Iovine, and they were all talking about Apple Music. And I'd already invested in Apple, but I was like, and Apple's a safest thing. You put money in Apple, you wait 10 years, it grows. Yeah. It's just what it does. Yeah. But I just remember thinking, okay, Apple Music's going to work. They're going to be very competitive. And that was smart. And then, or like when Facebook, and not that I'm a fan of Facebook, but like when that's down at 19, you're like, okay, well, this Zuckerberg guy knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, clearly, so you have to, and then you stick to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to.
And Warren Buffett is a big fan of Facebook as well, because his main thesis is buy a stock when it's undervalued and hold it for 10 years. And that's the more you kind of read about his stuff, it's very simple. There's not many rules in there, really. Don't sell because the price has changed. He's got a really good example. He says that if you bought a house for like $150,000, and it's called the annoying neighbor, I think. And he said every day your neighbor comes over and offers you a price, and it goes down by $1,000 every day. And after a few months, he gives you 75K. You're going to sell it then because the price keeps going down. Yeah. It's like, no, obviously you're not going to, but that's what people do, right? It's
like what they do.
Going down, I've got to sell, and it's like.
Because it's like, this could go to zero, like that's like why people sell bottoms, which is always amazing.
When you should be buying, and they call it Mr. Market, because it's like you kind of attach your emotions to the market, which is the wrong thing to do. Your emotions should be on the business, not what the market is doing, because the market will, go up and down and spit you out if you try and follow what the market's doing. Ignore the market and find good businesses like Opulous.
Yeah.
available.
We'll see. There we go. That's a good one. Let's go back to there, because I'm sure people are watching. We're like at, almost at an hour, and I haven't even touched on the roadmap.
Well, mate, we all know what the roadmap is. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so that's true. But there's a couple of things that I do want to ask. What are some of the concerns? I want to make sure I get some of the concerns from the community that I've read out and ask you about it.
Yeah, sure.
So previous royalties like Big Zoo and I think there's another one even before that. Yep. Well, those royalties, the royalties being distributed, I think on the roadmap that's coming soon. But from you, I'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, man. So the Big Zoo ones, I can't really talk too much about that because of SEC stuff, but everyone's been contacted about that, and there's no problems with that. The royalty website, mate, I can show you after. It looks amazing. We actually finished it months and months ago, but because of the SEC stuff, see, we're going to two different systems now, right? The system that we're doing, which is a non-US system that's launching soon, will have pretty much the same royalty website, but it's a completely different distribution process because you don't have to go through the SEC. It's amazing and it's smooth. The process before, for the little pump stuff and the other ones, it has to go through all these SEC regulations. So it's not the tech that we've been building, it's a problem about the regulations. But I would say that we're doing phase 1 week next week. Very shortly after that, we'll be announcing a date for the royalties distribution, which is hugely exciting, man, because that's the pretty much 2/3 of the whole platform is out then. So, mate, I know I can understand people are annoyed, man, because it's been a long time, but also, you're investing in a startup and you're here with us through the problems, and that's why you invest in a startup and you get better returns rather than if you go investing with Apple, because it's you have to put up with these things. So, again, I guess thanks to all the people that have done that. And the ones that have moaned, don't worry, we will sort it out for you.
You're going to sort it out. And then the, what was I going to say? So, okay, phase one is next Monday, I think. And that is, we're going to have the Opulous app. There's going to be a dashboard. There's staking. Or what is in phase 1?
Yeah, so it's basically the whole staking platform, but it's not just a staking platform, really. It's a ticketing system so that every day you stake your Opulous on there, you get various different tickets. The tickets are then available to go and apply for different sales. You'll get your APY and the Opulous token. And it's pretty much the backbone of everything that we'll be doing with the sales as they come out. So it's a really, really important piece of development. I mean, that's another thing, man. When people ask about why stuff takes so long, if we'd have gone to Ethereum, we would have had that probably in about 3 weeks. We built the whole thing from scratch in Algorand, which is teal, which is difficult. I don't know, but it's done now. It's finished, and it's the first kind of tech that does that properly, and we'll probably open source it eventually so everyone can use it. So yeah, man, it looks so good, and I see this stuff every day, so I'm difficult. But I think once people see it, they're going to be very pleased.
So you had mentioned it that you're moving towards the non-USA product because of all the hurdles and the hoops and all the difficulty with the SEC, and once that's clear, but you're still working on a US compatible product. Yeah, but
man, it's not even the SEC stuff. It's like they take so much money in tax from your releases. It's like we have to individually take people's tax out when we pay them for each release. That was another thing that took forever. They take a portion of the tax out. You have to register the LLC, which has to pay tax. There are so many things on that structure that we have to work through. And what I don't want to do is sit here for the next 2 years, or it won't be that long, but even for another year without any products out. So created this whole system that runs the OVault, the MFTs. It's a whole economic structure for what we're doing that we've been working on for the last, probably 6 months now. And that will be coming out really soon, and we'll be able to operate multiple sales at the same time, all in crypto.
Okay, tell me about this Opulous Royalty Vault. How does that work?
Okay. The royalty vault works much like an MFT drop would. So it will pay, but whereas an MFT will pay, whatever it makes, the OVault will guarantee a certain percentage each month. And the way you've guaranteed that, we've been buying catalog that has a track record over, decades, that we know it's going to earn a certain amount. And we'll also be topping that up with Opulous for special perks and rewards. And it will give you a very stable staking for USDC, and you will get a fixed amount of returns. And if you look at all the stuff happening at the moment, it's actually really hard to get a good return on your crypto at the moment, because all the stablecoin staking has gone down drastically. BTC staking is like a couple of percent. What this will do is give you really good rewards, and it's also asset backed, so it's completely safe. So we've been attracting a lot of institutional money. that will be investing. We've completed like the first phase financially, and yeah, it's going to be sick. And that's something we can just kind of build and build and build it to. It's like $100 million, $1 billion fund that will just keep printing out good returns for people safely.
Right. So it's going to be, so you're going to acquire a bunch of music that you see like a track record of stable returns. And then the OVault token, which will be available on DEXs and for anybody to buy.
It'll be available on probably our own DEX and maybe one of the Algorand DEX. And we're speaking to all of them at the moment. It's not really a token that's tradable, right? It's a token that you buy it for a certain price. It'll stay the same price, and then you get guaranteed X amount of returns. So it's not like a token that will go up and down in value. It's a token that will stay around the same price. And like I said, it's all. I hope we release a white paper soon. Fernando keeps saying it's not a white paper because it's only 15 pages, but it's a really good economic paper for how the whole thing works. So it's pretty exciting, man. Like no one's doing anything like that at the moment with an actual asset. There's a few people have tried to do property, but they don't understand how big in music copyrights are. Most music copyright funds are in the billions already, and everyone from Wells Fargo to the family offices are all buying music copyrights. We have a guy called Jay Moore who previously ran a $1.2 billion fund for one of Ditto's competitors, Kobolds, and he was in charge of acquiring content. So he's been getting content for us already. I also have Ditto, so I can get new stuff at a good price, and we can look out for stuff there. And yeah, man, and we've had support from Algorand on it as well, which is like I said, amazing. Yeah,
and that they supported in the beginning, and they're also supporting this royalty vault too, huh? The OVault.
Maybe they will, Cooper. Maybe they will.
Maybe they will. And then you were teasing on Twitter that you might announce a new artist next week, right? Did you say that?
Maybe I was.
And then there's I
think, like you said, I think what we're going to do next week is a phase 1 week where we do something cool every day because the community love that stuff and we love it. So we have a bunch of stuff we want to kind of talk about next week. So I think we'll probably do something different every day for the community. Cool. Get them all excited.
Yeah. And then Taiga, don't you? And Taiga's coming too, right? From the more traditional or the securitized side.
Yeah, man. And that's going to be a big, big song because Taiga has a new album coming out and it's going to be part of that and it's going to be a big song. But as with any...
Go ahead, sorry.
What, you waiting for the Macarena again?
No, I was gonna say I saw recently he was in the tabloids that the rumor was he's dating Selena Gomez. So whoever's in charge of them is getting him in the news before his album comes out. So that's a good thing.
Man, he's good at doing. I mean, he dated Kylie Jenner for a few years. He's very good at. He's usually in the news something terrible, so I'm glad it was positive this time. I think. But man, Tiger's chill, man. He's got a kid, and he's mostly he's a very very good business person, and I think he's an A-list star, man. He's got however many followers on Instagram. So that's another thing that will just push us. I haven't even been thinking about it, to be honest, but. I'm obviously really excited to do that sale finally, and it'll be a really, really good song.
Yeah. And then I saw that there's Mft staking, right? So what does that look like? So if you have one of these MFTs, you're going to stake it, you're going to be able to earn some sort of yield by holding on to it?
So look, right, all it is basically to kind of, we still want to go in with some kind of security guidelines, right? So you have to kind of do something to get your money, and all it is you stake your MFT, and then it'll get you royalties for the MFT. You can just basically, you have it on the platform, you move it to a certain area, and you get paid. That's all it is really, but it's very compliant with a lot of regulations. So it's nothing extra, to be honest. It's just part of the platform.
Part of the platform. And then I'm sure people are wondering, they hear OVault token, they're like, okay, well, wait. So how does the Opal or the Opal token, Opal or Opal? We talked about this before. Opal. Yeah. The Opal token, what's the utility of the Opal token going to be?
Yeah, I mean, look, don't get distracted by the OVault token because that is really not a token that's going to be traded. We won't really have any volume on it. That is a token to be staked that you buy from the OVault. Now, if you look at any of the platforms like Curve Finance or any others, the Opulous token will be used within that to get better rewards for the OVault token, right? So if you have a Opulous token, you'll get better rewards. You can get paid out an Opulous token. But as we launch the MFT site, that's really what the backbone of the token is. So we'll be launching some sales, which will be very small sales, which you can only get in if you pre-stake. And the only way to kind of get into those sales is to pre-buy with your Opulous token. So any Opulous holders are going to get first into all of the sales that are coming out. And like I said, the sales that I'm looking at now, we obviously have Tiger, but I'm also looking for stuff that's going to make big financial returns. So the Opulous token is mostly used the same as any token would be for, Launchpad, as in you can stake it, you get a return, you'll be getting different perks on it, and also it entitles you to get to all of the sales. And then, everything we do, man, we're basing it around, and we're continually working on a way of making sure that it's, part of what the ecosystem does.
Right.
Even on the Overvault, you have to buy a percentage of Opal tokens to get in there. So all the people that put a lot of money in, say someone's putting 200K into the Overvault, which, we have big investors that we're doing that, they still have to buy a certain amount of Opulous tokens to be able to do that as well.
Oh, cool. Well, that's good. And then, I mean, I haven't even mentioned it, but like the Opal token, like, I think since we did that Twitter space, has doubled. I mean, it's up 100% in a couple of weeks.
Mate, sex sells. That's what it is, right? It's you. It's that shirt. Mate.
It's all me, right? It's this, it's this like orange blue shirt. After this, it's 40 cents. It's like more than double after the third. This guy's got fucking flowers. I mean, all right, man. So, okay. So you have phase one coming, then it's going to be more and more, and then you're going to get to that. We talked about it earlier, the loans for musicians. And I imagine as you transition to these next phases, it's been like Tyga, Little Pump, some more recognizable names. But I think the original vision for Opulous is to give people, give musicians a platform to, even independent, like Ditto, like independent artists, giving them a place to get funding, to have to launch their music. So we're going to see more and more undiscovered talent launching.
100%, because like you said, man, you can do big names all day of the week because everyone loves you writing a check for them, but that's not what I want to do. The last phase of the whole thing will be artists be able to upload their own music, set their own page, mint their own MFTs, mint their own NFTs, and conduct the sales themselves. And if you're asking about the token, it's like, a big part of that will be, obviously there will be, at some point, there'll be a cost involved for each artist, and that will all be based on the token. So my vision is to be able to allow every artist to be able to go and, do this for themselves without us doing it. And that's what we're building, man. And, we are getting there every day. We're getting there.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. And you're in Algorand. Are you a governor? Are you an Algorand governor?
Mate, I'm not a technical guy. I'm not a governor. It took me 4 months to be able to set the wallet up. That's not the guy you want on your side in any kind of technical thing. Anything physical, like I'm not a governor.
Like, I'm not doing that. Okay, so your input on what everybody's arguing about the proposals
what are they arguing about?
They're arguing about the foundation and their proposals to incentivize DeFi, and so there's whatever. It doesn't matter. That's
what governor is. You just got to go in and argue. Maybe I would be quite good at it.
You'd probably be a great governor. You just got to go in and argue.
Yeah. So is there anything? Crypto's funny, eh? It's so funny. It's just man. It's just such another world.
I try very hard not to argue. I really try. I'm a argumentative. I that is sort of my nature. But I listen to you. And it makes me second guess my approach here because it's like
I'm
also
inspired some hatred to come out of.
You just see me all of a sudden, Cooper's unhinged, be like, "I'll go fuck off." Nobody wants to hear your bullshit. Yeah,
I always think, man, just step away for 10 minutes, then reply, and I'm like, nah, don't. Don't lose this energy. Let's just go.
Don't lose this energy. Yeah, that's all my creative juice. Yeah.
I mean, the worst thing is having an argument before you go to bed, and you wake up and like, man, and you remember what's happened. You've got to open your Twitter up and see how it's all going. But it doesn't matter.
I know. You're like, I know you have an argument on Twitter, and maybe your argument was after a few drinks, and then you go to bed, and then you're like, oh shit, what did I? Yeah. Hopefully, all I said are the things that I remember. Please let everything I said be what I remember. You're like, 20 plus.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter, right? We're all living our lives, and I think on our deathbed, you'll be glad of the things you said than you didn't. So. It's as long as you don't, I actually don't take it all very, it may seem like I do, but I don't take it very seriously. And that's why upsetting people or being whatever, it doesn't really bother me if a bunch of people are upset with me. It's like, pretty funny, really.
Do you look back at anything? I mean, maybe in general, doesn't have to necessarily be Twitter, but do you have any like particular regrets, or are you somebody that's like very stern about like not having regrets?
no regrets. I'll tell you something. This one time, everyone always, my brother's worse than me. He had to come off Twitter because he doesn't have any humor. So he'll just be like, he'll just say the worst thing imaginable without any like, Matt, stop. It's all bad. Everyone always like, they always call him at Ditto and we're like, Lee's going to get us in. There was this one time in, there was this one guy and he'd just been constantly writing stuff about me and Ditto. And he just wouldn't leave us alone, right? And we and my mate were at a stand at this music conference, and he turns up, this guy does, and I'm just sitting there. Have you seen that meme where the guy's fist is just like, like this? And someone like, what are we gonna do? And they're like, we'll call Matt. Matt will know what to do. And they call Matt up, and they're like, man, that guy's here. I think Lee's gonna go and punch him. And Matt's like, hold on. And Matt talks to me, he goes, Lee, make sure they film it. Goodbye. That was it. And then he left. And then it all kicked off, man. So I guess I don't really have any regrets. No, there's no point regret. Like, I don't actually take it very seriously, man. It's all just, it's like wrestling, right? That's all it is on Twitter. It's just wrestling. I'm never going to lose any sleep over it. But what I will say is, for everyone listening to this, if you don't like me, like, that doesn't bother me. It doesn't really matter. But what I would suggest is just really do some research on what you're investing in. Because if you were investing in things and you really knew about them and you understood the markets and macro environments and how the world, how everything is trading worldwide, then you wouldn't be online, shouting at founders or even projects. You'd be either comfortable or you wouldn't invest in it. So I'd say to anyone who's, thinking of going online tomorrow, complaining about Algorand or anything, go and just research, what Algorand are doing, and you'll make yourself feel better. Go and read a book on investing, and you'll make yourself feel better. Because I was ignorant to it a lot before. I definitely didn't read much on investing when I got into crypto, but now I have, and I can kind of understand the two mindsets that are competing each other. I understand why only a few % of the market are the ones that make money, and if you, like I said, that book, The Intelligent Investor, it was Warren Buffett's favorite ever book, and Warren Buffett actually ended up studying under the guy for like 4 years. And it's like his all-time hero. And that's, Warren Buffett is the best investor of all time. But he's a very slow investor. He's not looking for 100x returns. He's looking for 20% a year over a long period of time. So have a good 10-year plan, work out what your goals are. And once you know what those are, be the best at it, man. You don't see NBA players say, I want to be in the NBA and then go and spend an hour a week reading about it. Really go out there and make sure you're the best at it, because you have an opportunity here to be hugely successful and wealthy if you back the right projects and you're patient. Don't let, not liking me or liking someone else cloud your judgment in all that, when you could be taking an opportunity here to, buy your family another house or whatever. So,
right. Well, separating you from your personality, or whatever. Maybe somebody doesn't like the way you respond.
Yeah, exactly,
but then at the same time, you could also look at your track record, and not just dwell on your personality. Kind of look at where you, which I find very charmingly. So don't you worry. But
look, everyone. You remember when everyone was shorting Tesla, right? And everyone, look at the media now. We hate Elon Musk. We don't like him. It's like, man, even if you don't like him, you like your family and you like to buy them stuff. So why don't you just do some research on Tesla and the market? The stuff they have coming out and how it's been performing. I mean, Tesla is still a very risky stock. Warren Buffett doesn't invest in Tesla. Warren Buffett's biggest investments are still like Coca-Cola and American Express and stuff like that, because he knows he's going to get significant return. But obviously crypto is very different and it can't be compared to that. But, he was getting heat off everyone and the stock kept going up. So I have to come out and do a job. I don't want to really be on Twitter. I'd be happy living a quiet life. Like, most of the founders doing crypto. And I think that's another thing you've got to understand. At least I'm here every day. And, whether you insult me or you love me, I'm going to be here. And because I believe in what I'm doing. And I know that in a few years' time, it'll be out. And, I believe in it. I'm not going to hide in bad market conditions anyway, even though, some days I'd like to. I don't. So.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you continue to defend. And I will say there was a time a while ago when maybe the Twitter combat was at a high, and I was like, man, is the Algorand community going to, make Lee just be like, you know what, go fuck off, I'm leaving.
You know what? And I'll tell you what, honestly, within that period of time, I was getting 7-figure offers from other companies to move to them. And not just offers of money, offers of like, you can build that here in a month.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm getting everyone moaning at me every day about this and that, and you don't like Algorand and all this stuff. But like I said, I'm never going to move, and I won't move because David Garcia and those guys invested in me when the market wasn't huge, and I will always have faith in those guys, and they're always there for me. So that's it. You know, you could offer me as much money you want. I'd never move, whatever the community does. So
so even during that time. So, that sounds fun. That sounds fun. Well, I mean, we got to get to Cypher in Brazil, and you know, I'll crash at your place.
I wish I could go to the one coming up, but I can't leave Brazil for a few months until I get my visa sorted. But maybe we'll do a competition since one out there. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do that.
All right. Cool. All right, Lee. Well, I appreciate you just letting me go through all of the things and being so cool and having a drink, and yeah, man. Definitely,
there was a few minutes in there where I was a little bit buzzed. I'm glad it stayed on one. So
are you gonna, what time is it? What time is it right now for you?
It's 7:30 here now. I haven't drunk for quite a long time, but probably not tonight. Got a nice little dinner now. And then then back to work.
Yeah, this was a long one. Thanks for hanging out for, you know, nearly an hour and a half. So cool.
Probably more. All right, bro. Well, yeah, thanks very much, man. All right, man. Take care, Algorand people.
All right, appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, bye.